Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Retro Wrestling Review Series, Season 6, Episode 2. And ironically, this is the season finale of this. I know it's a very short season. This is probably the shortest season in the history of the show. Just because it's a Fastlane Review Series. There's only 2 Fastlanes in existence, so there's not really a lot for me to work with when it comes to Fastlane. So, I mean, you're going to have to expect a very short season. So I am going to be covering now Fastlane from 2016, from last year actually. So it's going to be different now, kind of watching the show where people have gone for a year, whether they've risen up, whether they've fallen down. It's going to be very interesting. I'm actually kind of interested to see how this pans out. And I'm also going to be interested because when the show had happened at the time, I was very negative about it. I was very negative about the product. I actually just watched my predictions video on it. I didn't watch the whole thing because I just could not watch it. And I was very negative. And I don't know why. I know why, but it was just I think the reason why is I was dealing with a lot of bad stuff at the time that I'm not really gonna get into because it's stuff I'm trying to get away from. And you know there was a lot of stressful situations that were going on at school, I guess, that necessarily didn't even have to do with the academic part of it. There's a lot of drama with friends, and you know I tried. I guess I was just trying to muster some sort of video out of it, and a lot of my anger came from I guess I extracted my anger towards WWE instead of the people that I should have been angry with at the time. I mean, I get like a little bit speechless talking about it now, but I just watched it and it's like I was just not in a good place at that time. So I think that's why I was so negative towards this show. Now I could still be suck, but I'm gonna watch it back now and see what I think about it. So I'll kind of run through the card a little bit. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more when I watch the kickoff. I'm gonna structure this video the same way, by the way, too. Where I review it in takes. I'm gonna review the kickoff all in one take. Then I'm gonna review, after each match or segment, I'll come back here and talk about it. But the matches we have is we have a kickoff match. We have a tag team women's match. We have an Intercontinental Championship match, a 6-man tag team match. What else do we have on this show? So we have a triple threat match for the main event. I can't really think of anything. We have a singles match itself. A 6-man tag, a Divas title match, and that's really about it. I'll kind of go through it more when I actually watch the show. I'm gonna watch this show and see what my perspective is coming out of it again. I'm gonna watch it. I already know what happens, but I'm gonna watch it with a completely different intake than I did, last year. I think one thing that's not gonna change about this show is just kind of it's gonna bring me back to going back towards the time when all this stuff happened that was going on. So I will get some bad memories. I'm actually kind of a little bit emotional talking about it now. So I am gonna kind of curious to see if those are gonna happen. I think it's kind of starting to happen now, but I wonder if now when I start watching the show it's gonna change. But we're gonna have to wait and see, right? Okay, so I just finished the kickoff, and they start off by telling us what the matches are going to be, which I'll do just that right now. We're going to have a Divas we're going to have a kickoff match a 2 out of 3 falls match for the United States Championship. United States Champion Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio. We're going to have a Divas Championship match between Divas Champion Charlotte and Brie Bella. A Divas Tag Team match between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch versus Naomi and Tamina Snuka. A 6-man tag team match between Braun Strowman, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper versus Big Show, Kane, and Ryback. It's riveting stuff right there, right? An Intercontinental Championship match between Intercontinental Champion Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. A match between AJ Styles and Chris Jericho. We're going to have a segment called the Cutting Edge Peep Show with the New Day as the special guest. I'll get into that in a second. And I think that's about it. And then we also have the main event. It's a WWE World Heavyweight Championship #1 contenders match between Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. So now that I've kind of said what all the matches are, let me talk about the build-up. I want to start with the Divas. Actually, I'm going to start with the kickoff match because that was kind of the first thing that was discussed. So the reason that the kickoff match is happening between Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio is they had pretty much been feuding for a while. They started the feud in January. Kalisto had defeated Alberto Del Rio. Well, Alberto Del Rio, actually I should mention, had been gone for the company for a while. He came back in October of 2015 and won the United States Championship. And he was pretty much running a tail with that title. And then eventually on the first Raw of 2016, he lost the championship to Kalisto. And then like a day later, Alberto Del Rio regained the championship back. And then at the Royal Rumble, Kalisto won back the championship. So this led us to this rematch here. And Alberto Del Rio continuously had been saying that this was a fluke. So he wanted a chance to prove that by having a 2 out of 3 falls match. So that way he can fully prove it, because Kalisto won't only have to beat him once, he'll have to beat him twice, which does make sense. This feud really wasn't like anything special because it was just about matches. It wasn't about a storyline or anything, which I really didn't care for. And this was kind of when the United States Championship had diminished because it had great prestige, and then when Alberto Del Rio had won it, the prestige went down. So that's how I feel about that. Then we have the Divas title match build up between Charlotte and Brie Bella. Charlotte had made her debut in the summer of 2016, and she ended up beating Brie Bella's sister, Nikki Bella, for the Divas Championship. She beat the longest reigning Divas champion at the time. They had the storyline there. Then a few weeks ago, Brie Bella had beaten Charlotte in a match to kind of get this shot. But then there was more story behind it. They were kind of using some other things behind Brie Bella, that she wasn't focused on this match because Nikki Bella had gotten neck surgery, so she was worried. So she thought that she would have been worried about that. And also, a couple of weeks prior to this was when Daniel Bryan had retired from wrestling, which was really sad at the time. So people were wondering if Brie Bella was going to be focused on this match. Charlotte was kind of using that to kind of distract Brie Bella. And then eventually she had mentioned that her and Brie, after she loses, her and Daniel Bryan can go off and have a kid. But I guess a goat face kid is still a kid, right? And Brie Bella had slapped her across the face. And this kind of ignited the feud even more. Not a bad feud. I just personally didn't care about it because it seemed like they were trying to use the hot stuff between They were trying to use the stuff between Nikki Bella and Daniel Bryan to kind of validate Brie Bella getting a title shot. And Brie Bella really didn't deserve this title shot, I thought. But not a bad feud. I get why they did this, because they wanted to capitalize. Brie Bella was red hot, kind of, but it kind of felt like she was using kind of her family stuff. She wasn't getting over herself. But it did work. We also had the other Divas match on the show between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch taking on Naomi and Tamina Snuka. The reason behind this match was because Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch both had came up from NXT along with Charlotte on the exact same day in the summer of 2016. And Sasha Banks had aligned herself with Naomi and Tamina Snuka, and they formed Team Bad together, which didn't make any sense at the time. And Team Bad, I guess, kind of win must shot in the Divas division. They didn't really feel like they did, but they sort of did. And also, too, around this time was when Becky Lynch was also feuding with Charlotte over the Divas Championship. Becky Lynch had lost her match against Charlotte at the Royal Rumble. And then Sasha Banks had been gone for a few weeks because she had been injured. And then she returned and had that big epic moment with where she attacked Becky Lynch. And then she ended up laying out Charlotte. And she announced her intentions to go after the Divas Championship. But at the same time, they had Naomi and Tamina Snuka come out, and Naomi and Tamina Snuka, thought that she was with her, but eventually Sasha Banks just ended up dumping them, and then they got attacked by Becky. They were attacking Becky Lynch, and they also would attack Sasha, and Sasha and Becky kind of formed an alliance a little bit to kind of take them out. But also they were still kind of feuding with each other because they both wanted to be the Divas champion and go after Charlotte's title. And then obviously Charlotte and Becky Becky and Sasha had a history from the matches in NXT and the alliance in NXT and everything. So that feud wasn't too bad. Then we had the feud for the Intercontinental Championship between Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. I wasn't a fan of this feud at the time. The feud is that they were just having matches with each other. There was no purpose behind it. They just kept having matches. And they kept having match after match after match to the point where I didn't want to see them wrestle each other anymore. And Dolph Ziggler had gotten Kevin Owens' number on a couple of occasions. And then eventually in a fatal 5-way match, Kevin Owens had won the Intercontinental Championship because at the time Dean Ambrose was the champion. And Dolph Ziggler challenged him to this match, and he was granted that match. It didn't really there really wasn't a lot of story behind this match, but whatever. And then we have the 6-man tag team match between Strowman, Owen, and Harper, and Big Show, Kane, and Ryback. The reason behind this match was because the Wyatt family, which made up of these three, of Strowman, Rowan, Harper, and Wyatt, all kept attacking these guys. Bray Wyatt had beaten Kane in a match, and then they had I believe Bray Wyatt had beaten Ryback in a match, and then eventually Big Show wanted revenge on the Wyatt family. So Big Show had defeated Eric Rowan in a match, but then he was laid out by the Wyatt family afterwards. And then it led to a match between Big Show and Braun Strowman on the main event of Raw. And then there was a bunch of interference in it. Ryback came out to make the save, and Kane came up through the ring, and they fought him off. And this kind of led us to this match. A bad storyline, a match I didn't care about, and we're going to get to the match when I get there. Then we have this segment with the Edge and Christian Peep Show with the New Day on it. And the reason this segment was happening was because the New Day, who consisted of Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E, formed an alliance back in 2014. And at first, this alliance failed miserably. They didn't really start doing anything with it until 2015. And they were not getting over. They tried doing baby faces, and it just wasn't working. So then eventually they went the heel route. Then the New Day eventually somehow became the hottest act in WWE in 2015. They had great segments together. They had the trombone, Francesca. They had, what else did they have? They had Xavier Woods constantly screaming things at people, unicorns. The New Day was just really doing really good stuff. They were really entertaining, and this was and this kind of helped all three of these guys' career, because Kofi Kingston wasn't really doing anything. He was always fighting for the mid-card belts, but this really morphed him into a great and to be able to show him what he was able to do. I feel like it helped Big E improve, because when he originally came into this company, he wasn't very good. He wasn't very good on the mic, and now he actually has charisma. And Xavier Woods is, really good. And Edge and Christian obviously were a legendary tag team in the WWE for years. And they were coming back because they were originally hyping up the new show that had come on at the time called the Edge and Christian Show that totally reeks of awesomeness, which I still need to watch at some point. And months back in September of 2015, they had a battle where Xavier Woods played the trombone and Edge and Christian played the kazoos, but and they had that battle, which I thought was funny. So I was actually looking forward to seeing them, seeing this segment at the time. Even though we'll get to what happened with it later. And then we have the storyline between I believe there's a couple. So then we have the storyline between AJ Styles and Chris Jericho, and the reason this match was happening was because AJ Styles had debuted in the Royal Rumble of 2016, and he got a great ovation. We knew he had signed with the company, but when he had finally debuted in WWE, it was awesome. And then the next night, in his first match, he had defeated Chris Jericho, and this kind of started the teasing of the tensions between Styles and Jericho, where Jericho was kind of like trying to be that, thought that he was the veteran in the business, and Styles was the rookie, even though he knew Styles worked all over the world, he didn't work heel. So then it led to a rematch on SmackDown, where Chris Jericho ended up winning that match. And eventually they had a rematch in Fastlane, and they wanted to see if AJ Styles could deliver on the big stage, and that's exactly what this was. I didn't mind the feud too much at the time. I still kind of don't mind it. I just kind of wish they would have only had one match at WrestleMania, and they had done something where they were a team at first, which is what they ended up doing eventually. So it was weird. Then we have the main event match, the triple threat, where the winner faces the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania 32. It's between Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Dean Ambrose. And the reason this match was happening was because at the Royal Rumble, Triple H had won the Royal Rumble match and won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, where Roman Reigns was defending the title, and he last eliminated Dean Ambrose. So that's why because Roman Reigns was in there, because he had a rematch, Triple H had eliminated Dean Ambrose, and they just randomly threw Brock Lesnar in there. But he never really got his full rematch for the title either, so it made sense. I personally didn't think this match at the time made sense because Roman Reigns had a rematch in his contract, and he did not need to be in this fucking match, so it didn't make any sense. But the build up to this match was good. Otherwise, they were building this as brother versus beast, and they were trying to build up tension between Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns because they had been brothers for years, from their days in the Shield, and then they had a close friendship afterwards, and then they wanted to build it up, saying that you got to win the title, only one guy can win. Sorry, the dog is kind of playing with her tail. Saying that only one guy could win this match. So then they were telling that story, and Triple H and Stephanie McMahon also were trying to take them out at the same time because they didn't want to have to face them at WrestleMania. And Brock Lesnar, they were starting to tease a feud between Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose by Dean Ambrose coming out and saying that this is the Beast's lair, huh? Well, this is interesting because I like being in his lair. And Brock Lesnar would continuously lay out Dean Ambrose every week. And eventually Ambrose ended up losing his Intercontinental Championship, so it kind of left you in the question whether or not Dean Ambrose was winning this match or not. Because at the time, they were the guy that everybody had wanted to win. They didn't want Roman Reigns to win this match. So that's where this was going. And I personally didn't mind the match. I thought but it personally didn't make any sense that this match was happening because, like I said, Roman Reigns had a rematch in his contract where he didn't need to have a WWE World Heavyweight title match. I didn't really like the whole concept they were trying to tell, where they were trying to get rid of Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose so they couldn't compete, but they didn't really give a shit about Brock Lesnar, even though Brock Lesnar was a really dominant superstar and a freak of nature, and he had broken Triple H's arm before. I didn't think that part made any sense. It was weird. But anyhow, that was kind of like the storylines going into the show. So now let me talk about the actual kickoff itself. We had Renee Young, Booker T, Jerry the King Lawler, and Corey Graves on the panel. I thought they did a really good job on the panel. I actually really enjoyed this kickoff show. And on commentary, we had JBL, Mauro Ranallo, and Byron Saxton. I thought, this was when they had just brought in Mauro Ranallo as a commentator, and I thought he was a breath of fresh air at the time because he was that commentator that actually called moves and talked about stories and was investigated in the match, which is what we didn't see a lot anymore. And the first thing that happens is Paul Heyman gets interviewed, who's the advocate for the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar, and he talks about how Brock Lesnar's intent on going in there and destroying Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, and he says that he actually hopes that Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose work together because then eventually one's going to have to turn on the other. And he says that that the spotlight's on Brock Lesnar. They're going to have to work together to take him out. So they have to worry about him more than Lesnar has to worry about them. And then he says that we should just talk about WrestleMania, and I should hype you up for Triple H versus Brock Lesnar. So then Booker T asks, so does that mean that Brock Lesnar was looking past tonight? And he says, no, Brock Lesnar isn't, but I am. So overall, I thought that was a really good segment by Heyman. Then Dolph Ziggler gets interviewed, and he says that Kevin Owens took an underhanded tactic to win the Intercontinental Championship in the Fatal 5-Way match, and he says that and he's gotten over him a past couple of weeks, but Kevin Owens was able to be opportunistic and take advantage of it. And he says that tonight he's going to bring back the old Dolph, and he says that tonight he's going to beat Kevin Owens for the Intercontinental Championship and go on to WrestleMania to steal the show. I thought this was a really good promo by Dolph Ziggler. And then we had a 2 out of 3 falls match for the United States Championship. United States Champion Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio. I actually thought this was a really good match, even though Del Rio and Kalisto didn't have storylines going in this match. I always thought they had fantastic matchups together. This was at the time when they were really pushing Kalisto. Well, they were actually pretty high on Kalisto. They gave him the U.S. title and they let him run with it, and it was interesting. I'll get into what happened. Kalisto, but this match was really good. Del Rio dominates the first half of it by beating the crap out of Kalisto, and then Kalisto runs out of the ring. He gets back in the ring. He hits a Hurricane Rana on Del Rio, and he starts going off on him. He hits a high flying move on the outside, but then Del Rio throws him ribs first into the apron, beats the crap out of him. He actually tried to take his mask off, which I never really cared for that part about Del Rio when he wrestled masked wrestlers. He'd always try to take their mask off. I thought that was kind of disrespectful by Del Rio. And he pretty much dominates Kalisto. He throws him into the steel post. He smashes his face against it. And then he goes to ram his shoulder first into the post, but Kalisto counters it, sends Del Rio head first into the post. And then he hits a Cena senton from the barricade. And then, damn it, my phone's ringing. Then he goes to dive over onto him into the timekeeper's area, but Del Rio grabs a chair, hits Kalisto with the chair, which Del Rio ended up getting disqualified, but giving Kalisto the first fall. And then Del Rio beats the crap out of Kalisto before the second fall begins. He just throws him into the barricade and then the announce table. And then Del Rio just beats the crap out of Kalisto, and he hits the double stomp on him and covers him and gets the second fall. So then Del Rio dominates Kalisto again, and he hits a back suplex off the turnbuckle, and Del Rio just beats the crap out of him, and then Kalisto starts to make a comeback. He hits a Frankensteiner off the top rope. He hits a Cena senton and a half Rana, and then he hits a Torpe Suicido on the outside. But then eventually Del Rio hits a Totoro backbreaker, covers him, Kalisto kicks out, and then Del Rio throws him into the barricade again, and he ends up hitting the double stomp while with Kalisto's bridge against the barricade, which I thought was awesome. And he gets him in the ring, covers him, and he goes to do it. Well, no, Del Rio gets in the ring. He's going to win the title by count. He's going to win the match by count out, but Kalisto gets back in the ring just in time, and then Del Rio goes for the double stomp again. But Kalisto moves out of the way, and he ends up hitting the Salida del Sol. Well, he goes for the Salida del Sol on Del Rio, but Del Rio powers out of it. So then Kalisto takes his momentum and throws him headfirst into the steel post, rolls him up, and Kalisto ends up winning the matchup, and he retains his United States Championship. And then yeah, Kalisto wins, and it was a really good match. I thought Kalisto and Del Rio had a really good kickoff match. And the aftermath came where Kalisto would defend his U.S. title and retain it at WrestleMania, which I'll get to the opponent that he faces later on in this video. Payback, then he lose it at Extreme Rules. And Kalisto really didn't do much with this title. They really didn't spotlight him enough. And that just didn't really feel like he was ready for this spot. They just kind of threw him in there randomly. So then Kalisto really hasn't been the same. I think they just got mad that his run didn't go over as much as they thought it would. So he's just never been up in that spot ever again. And now he just kind of dicks around on SmackDown. And Del Rio will get into what happens with him later on in this video. Then the next thing is we have an AJ Styles Q&A. And I like the questions that was asked. He gets asked, I'm trying to remember what the first question was. He gets asked how it feels for him to be in WWE, and he says that he's thrilled to be here. And he says that it was a long time coming. He waited for years and worked hard to get here. Then he gets asked who inspired him, and he says it was some football player because he wasn't the biggest guy, but he ended up being effective. But he said other than that, he said that Stim was the one that influenced him. Then he also says that he loved the ovation that he got at the Royal Rumble. He said that he wanted it to happen, but he didn't see it coming. And he says that the differences between working in WWE and then these other promotions is that the WWE is the big leagues, and he's just thrilled to be here. And I thought AJ Styles did a really good job. Rich Brennan did great asking these questions. It's really a shame he's not with the company anymore, but we know why, but I won't get into it. And AJ Styles, this is when he was just brought into the company, and this was the first time he had really talked, because when he had first come, they didn't really give him much of a microphone to work with, so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, that was the kickoff. I actually really enjoyed the kickoff. It was I thought it really flowed well, and it was really easy to sit through, and I really enjoyed the kickoff. It was great. All right, so now I'm going to start actually watching the show and come back on here after each match and everything. All right, so we had the actual show itself. We pretty much had the same people on commentary, except Michael Cole took Molinalo's place, since he's the voice of the WWE. And we had the first match. It was a tag team match. Naomi and Tamina Snuka versus Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I thought this was a good match here. I don't think this was a pay-per-view quality match. I thought this was a good Raw TV match, but still a good match. Sasha and Becky start arguing with each other about who should start off the match. So eventually Sasha just does. And then eventually Becky tags herself back in. So then they start arguing again. And then they lay out Tamina with a double drop kick. And they pretty much dominate the first half of the matchup. And then eventually Naomi takes out Becky Lynch. And Tamina and Naomi get the heat on Becky Lynch for a while. Naomi hits an Irish whip, and then Tamina hits the clothesline. And they both just pretty much dominate the matchup. Tamina Snuka ends up hitting a Samoan drop. And then there was a spot where Becky Lynch was about to make the tag, but then Naomi pulled down Sasha Banks just before she got there, which I thought was good tag team psychology. And then eventually Sasha Banks gets the hog tag, starts going off on Naomi. And she beats the crap out of her. She hits the double knees. And then Naomi goes for the bulldog in the corner, but Sasha Banks counters, goes for the bank statements. Tamina Snuka pulls her out of the ring, and then Sasha chases her, which I thought looked kind of weird that Tamina, this big woman, was running away from Sasha, but I think the spot was supposed to be where she just did that, so that way Naomi could hit the rear view on her, which is what happened. And then Sasha kicked out of it, and then Tamina gets tagged in. She hits the super kick on Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks still kicks out, and then Becky Lynch breaks it up. Naomi throws her out of the ring, and then they go to hit a double suplex on Sasha Banks. She lands on her feet. Becky Lynch hits the double Mr. Drop kick. And Sasha Banks gets her into the crossface. But Michael Cole called it the bank statement, which I thought was weird. And Then Becky Lynch puts Naomi in the disarmer, and then they both end up tapping out. And since Tamina was the legal woman, that means they win. And overall, like I said, I thought this was a good match. And the aftermath of this match was Naomi and Tamina would still end up being a part of WrestleMania. They would go on to be in some lame women's tag team match. Well, lame Divas tag team match, as it was called at the time. Naomi, though, since then was pretty much stuck in the same spot. But eventually, she just recently won the SmackDown Women's Championship. But right now, she's injured. Tamina Snuka's been injured for a while. We haven't really seen much of her. And then Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, I'll get to them at the end, just because of the fact that the Charlotte match kind of ties into them, so I'll talk about what happens. But this was pretty much a good. Obviously, it made sense for Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch to go over because they were the ones being pushed to go after Charlotte for the Divas title, or whoever was the Divas champion was. So it made complete sense. I kind of wish, though, looking back, though, that, because they weren't really in an alliance, that one of them had laid him out afterwards. Like, maybe Becky Lynch lays out Sasha, or since Sasha was technically a heel, that Sasha laid out Becky. I kind of wish that's what would have happened, but that didn't happen, so I kind of have a problem with that, but it's not that big a deal. Alright, so as you guys can tell, I'm in a different location, mainly because it's a different day. I ended up having to stop doing what I was doing because I had to go to my tutor. And I ended up having to finish that paper I told you about, which I finished. And, I couldn't finish the show last night, so I'm going to finish it today. So we had the next match. It was a Intercontinental Championship match. Intercontinental Champion Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler. I thought this was a great match for the Intercontinental Championship. I remember not enjoying it at the time. And I still kind of hate, I think I still know why. It's because around this point we had been seeing this match so often, so I was kind of boycotting this match. I watched the match, but I just hated it regardless because I didn't want to see it because we had seen it so often. But now that it's a different time and we haven't seen this match as often as we have, I actually come back here and enjoy this match. And I always, something I've always hated is they never really treat, Kevin Owens was the Intercontinental Championship, and he could have done so much with that championship. He could have really elevated that title back to new heights and really prestigious, but he ended up, but they didn't end up really doing anything with him as the Intercontinental Champion. And I kind of wish he hadn't won the title just on Raw because he had been a two-time Intercontinental Championship. He had won it previously at Night of Champions from Ryback. I kind of wish they would have had him not lose the championship to Dean Ambrose at tables, ladders, and chairs. That would have been nice. I'm just saying. But anyhow, that's besides the point. Let's talk about this match. Kevin Owens dominates the first half. He hits a headbutt. He cheap shots Ziggler and this was in Dolph Ziggler's hometown too, Cleveland, Ohio. Even though he resides in Hollywood, Florida now, but it was in Cleveland, Ohio. But Kevin Owens cheap shots him by hitting the headbutt, and he dominates Dolph Ziggler for a while. He hits a lot of right hands on him. Then they just start chain wrestling each other, and then eventually Kevin Owens hits a hard Irish whip, sending Dolph Ziggler just crashing into the corner. And he pretty much dominates the matchup. He beats the crap out of Dolph Ziggler for a while. And then eventually Dolph Ziggler starts to make a comeback. He hits a couple of clotheslines and a neck breaker. And he goes for an elbow drop. Kevin Owens moves out of the way. And then Kevin Owens hits a senton to the back of Dolph Ziggler. Covers him. Ziggler kicks out. And then he continues to dominate the matchup for a while. And he just goes to town, hits a clothesline on Ziggler. And then Kevin Owens goes to charge at him while Ziggler's in the corner, but Ziggler moves out of the way. Owens goes shoulder first into the steel post, and Owens is about to get counted out, but he ends up getting back in the ring in time, and Dolph Ziggler makes a comeback ahead. He hits a couple of splashes in the corner, another neck breaker, and then he hits 4 elbow drops on Owens, but Owens kicks out of it, all of them. And then they both crash on the to the outside of the floor, and Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler ends up hitting a super kick on the outside, and puts Owens in the ring, goes for the zigzag. Owens holds on to the ropes, hits a super kick himself, and covers him. Ziggler kicks out, and no, he doesn't cover him. Ziggler immediately gets up and hits a super kick, and then covers him. Owens kicks out, and then Owens hits a reverse superplex off the top rope, and covers him. Ziggler kicks out. Ziggler goes for a jumping DDT. Owens counters and sends Ziggler's balls first into the corner. Covers him. Owens kicks. Ziggler kicks out, and then Ziggler hits the jumping DDT. And covers him. Owens kicks out again, and then when Owens is out on the outside, he goes for the powerbomb into the apron, but Ziggler counters with a Rana, which sends Owens head first into the steel steps, and then he hits the Faymaster, covers him. Owens kicks out, and then he goes for the sweet chin music, and then Owens ends up covering himself up with the official, and Owens ends up hitting a knee to the gut and hits the pump-up powerbomb for the win. Covers him, gets the pinfall, and he ends up retaining the Intercontinental Championship. So Kevin Owens wins, and he retains his IC title, and then that was it. Overall, I thought this was a, like I said, a great Intercontinental Championship match, and it was a great match for both guys, and Owens went over. But like I said, it had gotten to the point, I mean, I'm not going to hate the match, but it had gotten to the point where we had seen the match so often that they couldn't. It was tough for them to really do new shit. They did do some new shit in this match, but still. And the whole storyline of this match really doesn't make any sense. So I think it's a great match, but just I don't really think the psychology of it is great. And then the aftermath came as both men would end up competing against each other in a 7-man ladder match at WrestleMania 32 for the Intercontinental Championship, where neither of them won. And then Dolph Ziggler would go on his own path, and Kevin Owens would go on his own path. And you could say long-term wise, Kevin Owens did benefit from this match, because now he's walking into this year's Fastlane defending the WWE Universal Championship, which is now the main title on Raw. And Dolph Ziggler really didn't benefit from this match. He stayed in the same spot. He has gone on to win the Intercontinental Championship later on in 2016. But Dolph Ziggler really didn't benefit from this match, so yeah. But Kevin Owens did benefit from this match long-term wise. You know, now he's the Universal Champion, and he's really he's a really hot commodity with the WWE. He's one of the top guys on Raw, which is awesome. So you could say overall that Kevin Owens long-term wise benefited, but Dolph Ziggler not so much. But overall, a great match, and the aftermath is also pretty good too. Okay, next, Big Show's backstage, and he says survival of the fittest, dog eat dog. He says that the Wyatt family is trying to use size to go against us, and Ryback comes up and says that the Wyatt family's been trying to use us as an example, but tonight that's not going to happen. And then Kane says that Kane comes up and says that the Wyatt family, which by the way I don't know if I mentioned, has consists of Bray Wyatt, Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, and Braun Strowman, but the Wyatt family is going to be sent back to a place that's close to my heart, to hell, and then that was it. It was not that great of a backstage segment. Okay, next match was a 6-man tag team match. Eric Rowan, Luke Harper, and Braun Strowman with Bray Wyatt ringside versus Ryback, Kane, and Big Show. And what a difference was with this match a year ago than now. A year ago, Eric Rowan still sucks. I still think he sucks. I don't think he's that good. But Braun Strowman, I hated Braun Strowman at this time. I didn't get why he was being pushed. They were really shoving him down our throats. And they're still doing that now, but it's really great now. He's like, how much Braun Strowman has improved from a year ago is just astounding to me. And obviously Ryback, this is when they Ryback changed to just wrestling in trunks, which I thought was stupid at the time, because everybody thought Ryback was a Goldberg ripoff. So they finally got away from the Goldberg chants, and then they took away his singlet and had him wrestle in trunks, and they brought the Goldberg chants right back. WWE, huh? So let me talk about this match. I personally thought this match sucked. I didn't think it was good. And the finish was stupid. The faces dominate Eric Rowan for a long-ass time, and eventually the heels get the heat on Ryback for a while. And like I said, Braun Strowman used to suck at this time. He was very floppy, and he would botch a lot of moves at this time, so that sucked. But then eventually Ryback reverses Rowan goes to suplex Ryback. Ryback reverses it into one of his own. Kane gets the hot tag and he starts going off on Eric Rowan. He beats the crap out of him. And then he goes on the outside, takes out Strowman with a big boot. And then Eric Rowan takes him out with a big boot while he's on the apron. Strowman throws him into the steel post. And pretty much the heels get the hate on Kane for a while. And eventually Strowman goes to big boot Kane while he's in the corner. Kane moves out of the way. And then Ryback gets the hot tag and he starts going off on Luke Harper. He hits like a bunch of body slams on him. Then he hits a running power slam. Covers him. Strowman breaks up the pinfall. And then Eric Rowan breaks up the pinfall. And then Kane chokeslams Eric Rowan. Strowman takes down Kane with a clothesline. Big Show grabs Strowman by the throat, just tosses him out of the ring. And then Luke Harper tries to attack Big Show, but then Big Show picks him up over his head, throws him out of the ring onto everybody. And then Big Show spears Strowman on the outside. And then Ryback puts Harper back in the ring. And he hits a meat-hook clothesline on Harper. And then Bray Wyatt tries to interfere. And he actually ended up taking Byron Saxton's commentary chair, which I thought was funny. And Ryback goes to take a cheap shot, but Wyatt gets off the apron. Strowman rolls up, Harper rolls up Ryback. Ryback kicks out, and then he hits a super kick, goes for a power bomb, but then Ryback counters into a shell shock, which the way Ryback hit this move looked brutal because it looked like Harper ended up really hurting himself and covers him and gets the victory. And Ryback, Big Show, and Kane get the victory, which I didn't think, which made no sense. Because these were Big Show and Kane are like the old guys, and Ryback didn't benefit from this. The Wyatt family really had needed to win this match because the Wyatt family was just looking like a weak stable, and this match wouldn't have helped them too much, but at least would have done something. And they were trying to build up Bray Wyatt to face Brock Lesnar, which is what I thought was happening. So the fact that they had lost this match was really stupid, and this was just kind of like the downward spiral of pretty much Bray Wyatt. He was someone that never won on pay-per-views, always lost the feuds, and this was kind of another one of those cases. And then the aftermath came where now Eric Rowan is injured. Ironically, Bray Wyatt's the fucking WWE champion, which is fucking madness, which I still can't believe it. Luke Harper's now a babyface, and the Wyatt family's completely broken up, and now he's actually feuding with Bray Wyatt, sort of. Braun Strowman, like I said, is really improved. He's like one of the top guys on Monday Night Raw. He's a huge monster. Big Show's about the same. Kane's injured right now, but he pretty much hasn't gone anywhere. And now Ryback's out of the company. He went on to he actually turned heel the next night and screwed him out of the same match. And he went on to face Kalisto twice for the U.S. title. And he had his last match at Payback on the Kickoff Show, losing to Kalisto. And he just wasn't happy with where he was in the company, which I don't blame him. And he just ended up walking out of the company. So you could technically say Bray Wyatt benefited from this match because he's the WWE champion, but I look at it as nobody benefited from this match because long term Bray Wyatt just randomly won the title. So I would say nobody benefited from this match, and this whole match sucked and is a waste of time to watch. Okay, sorry I've been delaying getting this video up. I've just been kind of busy, and I just been too lazy to get it up just because I didn't really feel like watching the show and everything. And I'm actually playing. One of my friends is actually playing. Can I tell him what you're playing? Sure. He got the new. Is it the Switch, right? I almost said because I get confused between Switch and Twitch sometimes because they're both the same. Not really the same thing, but and he's playing the new Zelda game online. So I was kind of watching him play it because he's addicted to it right now. But he is watching Fastlane tonight. Not the whole show, but like he's not watching the Cruiserweights though. And anyhow, let's just finish reviewing it. I just finished watching the show just because why not? So let me talk about the rest of the show. So Roman Reigns cuts a promo. And he talks about how because he gets interviewed and he gets asked if the triple threat match is going to cause a wedge in Dean Ambrose's and Roman Reigns' friendship because obviously they have the old days of the Shield. So, and they had been pretty much friends since coming out of the Shield, since the Shield had broken up. So Roman Reigns says though that it probably will because when he fights in the ring, he fights to be the best, and he fights to compete at WrestleMania, and this is everything that he's fought for. And then Dean Ambrose comes up and says that he's always hitchhiked his way to WrestleMania. He wants to be on the fast lane for it. And Roman Reigns then says that if he can get through this, then he can make all the trips that he wants. But then JoJo, who was interviewing him, says, but there's still one problem, guys. You still have Brock Lesnar. And then Dean Ambrose says, we know that. But we know that Brock Lesnar's not going to WrestleMania to fight for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. But we know one of us is. So that pretty much means that they're going to do whatever it takes to take out Brock Lesnar. So then we had the next match. It was a Divas Championship match. Divas champion Charlotte with Ric Flair inside versus Brie Bella. And Brie Bella was wearing the kick pads that Daniel Bryan was wearing the night that he won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 30. So a little bit of good luck for Brie Bella. And this match I thought was not that great just because I thought it was really sloppy. A lot of the moves came off really sloppy. And just not that great of a match. And, you know, they're obviously trying to tell the story where Brie Bella, like I talked about earlier in the video, that Brie Bella, they're trying to play off her story because Nikki Bella got injury and Daniel Bryan retired, and I just was not digging that storyline and still not. But they both start chain wrestling each other, but Brie Bella starts to out-wrestle Charlotte, and she goes for a bunch of yes kicks, but Charlotte ducks them, and she beats the crap out of Brie Bella for a while. She hits a neck breaker into a big boot. And she just dominates the matchup. She hits a snap suplex. Eventually, Brie Bella starts to make a comeback, hits a suicide dive, a drop kick through the ropes, and then she hits a knee in the knee while Charlotte's in the ropes, and she goes for the yes lock the first time, but Charlotte counters it and works over the injured leg of Brie Bella. But eventually, Charlotte wins with the figure 8 leg lock after she counters the yes lock. And Charlotte retains the Divas Championship. I thought that was fine. Charlotte obviously was going to win this match. I mean, no one really thought at the time Brie Bella was going to win. They were just trying to utilize the momentum of Daniel Bryan retiring and Nikki Bella getting the neck injury. And obviously the aftermath of this match came when Brie Bella would go on to have a final match at WrestleMania and win. And now she's pregnant, about to have a kid, which is ironic. And Charlotte would go on to have a triple threat match for the Divas title with Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And this is kind of where the aftermath of Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch ties in. They would get rid of the Divas title, and they would bring in the Women's title, which is now known as the Raw Women's Championship. And Charlotte would win the triple threat match against Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And Charlotte and Sasha Banks pretty much went on to feud all year for the Women's Championship. And Charlotte would go on to have an undefeated streak where she hasn't lost a match on a pay-per-view, which I don't really care about that much. But, Sasha Banks, I believe, is like a 3-time Women's Champion, or Raw Women's Champion now. And then Becky Lynch would go on to become the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion after the brand split. And, yeah, so, you know, Charlotte went pretty far. I believe, she's like 16-0 at pay-per-views now, which is pretty impressive. Even though she's lost matches, but it's weird. And she's actually wrestling tonight for the Raw Women's title, so that's pretty special right there. And then next, Chris Jericho gets interviewed, and he talks about how AJ Styles is now has to deal with the big pressure because this is his first big pay-per-view match coming into the WWE. And he says that Jericho says he's only as good as his last match. And the last match that him and Styles had, that he beat him. And either what's going to happen is AJ Styles is going to beat him and cement his legacy in the WWE. Or Chris Jericho is going to beat him and AJ Styles is going to be like all the other wrestlers who just fade away into nothing. Which I always like that. Which I like the way Jericho was acting. He was acting kind of like a heel, but he was still being brought to as a face. And I remember he used to have the light up jacket, which I loved at the time. So that was cool. So then we had the next match. It was AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho. And it's really different watching this match now than I did a year ago, because now I know this kind of gives away the aftermath, but now AJ Styles you could totally see that the WWE treats him differently now than they did back then. Back then, they didn't have him talk much, and he doesn't. He's totally like a different performer now than he is back then. Now he's like the big heel that talks a lot. He's been WWE champion, and he pretty much went on to own 2016. And he's probably like one of the best wrestlers that they have in the WWE right now. And Chris Jericho, when he coming out of this match, went on to become to do the things with the list of Jericho. He went on to say stupid idiots, and he went on to have like one of the best runs in the WWE. Because afterwards he ended up turning heel, which I'll get into why after I review this match. So it's definitely different watching this match back now than it was a year ago. It makes me kind of want to see them have a match now, because now Jericho is a face and Styles is a heel, but Styles is on SmackDown and Jericho's on Raw, so they can't have a match. So it kind of this is why I sometimes hate the brand split. This match, though, I thought was really good. They both start chain wrestling each other, and AJ Styles gets the upper hand. He hits a bunch of drop kicks on him, and he hits a clothesline off the top rope. And then Jericho dominates him for a while, throws him into the barricade, throws him into the steel steps, and AJ Styles hits a drop kick through the ropes. He ends up diving on Chris Jericho. And they actually ended up having... This match was really good, but they had some miscommunication where like AJ Styles went to do the springboard moonsault and botched it, and accidentally he didn't really get the move all the way. Styles was supposed to hit the powerbomb, but Jericho got him into the walls of Jericho, but he kind of messed that up a little bit too. They both started exchanging roll-ups on each other, and then eventually Jericho dominates the matchup for a while. He gets Styles into the walls of Jericho, but Styles is able to get to the ropes, and Jericho swings him into the barricade, gets him into the walls of Jericho, the Lion Tamer version on the outside, and then Styles goes to get in the win. Jericho hits a code breaker on him, Styles kicks out, and then Styles hits the Styles Clash. Jericho kicks out, and then Styles gets him into the Calf Crusher, and Jericho ends up tapping out. Styles wins the match, which was a huge moment for AJ Styles to get this win. And afterwards, Jericho shakes his hand and raises Styles' hand up, kind of showing that he puts him over. And obviously, the aftermath of this match, short-term wise, was AJ Styles and Chris Jericho would become a tag team for a couple of weeks called Y2AJ. They would go on to face the New Day for the tag titles. They would lose and then Jericho would end up turning heel, wanted one more match with AJ Styles, and Jericho would go on to defeat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. So, yeah, that does kind of show, because AJ Styles didn't even win at WrestleMania, and then he eventually went on to become, like, the guy. And he's, like, one of the top guys now in WWE, which is just kind of insane how much things changed for AJ Styles. And I always liked this feud, but I always kind of thought they should have done it differently, where they were the tag team first and they didn't have their first match until WrestleMania, but that's just me. And then we had the next segment. It was the Cutting Edge Peep Show with the New Day. Edge and Christian come out, and I always love that they have Tony Chimel out there, because they always have him there for that spot where he says the rated superstar. So it's always nice to see Tony Chimel back doing that again. And Edge and Christian talk about, and they pretty much shamelessly plug their show, and they go to talk about the great moments that they have in the TLC matches, but they get interrupted by the New Day. And the New Day, I think I talked about this earlier in the video, it's definitely different watching the New Day in 2015 around this time than in 2016, because the New Day were together, and they were originally faces, but then eventually, once they turned heel and the company ran with them, they became probably the best act that the WWE had at this time. They're still a pretty good act, but now they're not as hard as they were a year ago. So it's definitely interesting. But the New Day talk about how pretty much Edge and Christian are just old news, and the New Day is the new version of WWE. And Edge and Christian pretty much say that they're nothing. That they pretty much ripped off their stuff by, instead of saying awesomeness, they say booty. Instead of instead of wearing glasses, they wear unicorns on their head. And they make fun of Kofi Kingston saying that he dropped a Jamaican accent, which was pretty funny. And then the New Day make fun of him. They say they're the greatest tag team in WWE. And then Edge is like, well, what about the League of Nations? And if you don't know who the League of Nations were, it was Sheamus, Ken Barrett, and Rusev and Alberto Del Rio. They became a stable when Sheamus was the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and they formed a faction. It was kind of like a United Kingdom type of faction, which was a faction I wanted to see for a while, which I was happy to see it. But then the WWE kind of dropped the ball with it. That faction was terrible. The way they booked it. It could have been something good, but it wasn't. And pretty much Sheamus says that he would kick the New Day's ass. And Christian says that Rusev says in Bulgaria. The New Day pretty much make fun of him and says that if they were out here right now, they would make fun of him to their faces. So then the League of Nations come out. Sheamus says that they would kick the New Day's ass, and the New Day retreat. They don't want to fight them. And so then Edge and Christian say, well, if you want to look at some weird-looking people, you missed out on your opportunity. And Ken Barrett says that he would bullhammer both of them and drop them in a snap. And Alberto Del Rio says that, you remember the time that I retired you 5 years ago? And then Edge says, yeah, and since then I've accomplished more in the ring than you have, which was pretty funny. So then Edge and Christian are like, you know what, you're right, you guys are old news. So we'll let you have the win. So then Christian says, and for the benefit of those with flash photography, let's give it up to the League of Nations. And they boo him. And then the New Day says, and when we said we were going to turn the other cheek, we meant that we were going to twerk, pretty much is what they say. And that's what happened. And Edge actually makes it rain doing this, which was pretty funny. And pretty much just turned the New Day face. Well, they didn't really fully turn face yet, but they pretty much turned face after this segment. And this led to the New Day versus the League of Nations in a feud where the New Day would go on to lose to the League of Nations at WrestleMania, which was stupid, but whatever. I'll talk about that in the next season of the series. So then we had the next match. It was Curtis Axel with Heath Slater, Adam Rose, and Bo Dallas. If you remember the Social Outcasts, what a bad stable that was. Like, WWE at this time, like, made a lot of bad stables. We had this was one of them. And they faced and Curtis Axel faced R-Truth. But first, Social Outcasts come out and pretty much said that they won the fast lane of WrestleMania. It was a pretty bad promo. And they actually get into a debate about what type of cars they drive and stuff. I thought it was pretty bad. And the reason this was I don't even get why this match ever was on the pay-per-view. So pretty much what happened was you put Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio, a good 2 out of 3 falls match on the kickoff, but this match makes the pay-per-view somehow. This match isn't even a match I would even put on Raw. This is a match you would put on Superstars or something. So I don't know why this match made pay-per-view at the time. But the reason this match was happening was R-Truth and Goldust were kind of having a stick where Goldust wanted to be R-Truth's tag team partner, but R-Truth kept refusing week after week. So it led to this match here, kind of. They were kind of still working with that. This match wasn't even all that long. R-Truth dominates the beginning, and then behind the referee's back, Bo Dallas pulls down the top rope and sends R-Truth ball first into the turnbuckle. So then Adam Rose, who at the time they called the Radical Mongoose, which was weird, Heath Slater and Bo Dallas all do the victory lap around the ring. So then Goldust comes out and sees this, and he gets upset about it. So then he tries to help R-Truth. They're distracted by referee's distracted by, I believe, Bo Dallas. I forget exactly who. And Goldust trips Curtis Axel from behind. Goldust takes out Heath Slater. He throws the Radical Mongoose Adam Rose in the ring. And R-Truth has to, jump over him. And Curtis Axel steals the victory with a roll-up, and R-Truth is upset about this. And this would lead to continuation where Goldust wanted to be R-Truth's partner. R-Truth kept saying no, and then eventually R-Truth felt bad, tried to have Goldust to be his partner, and Goldust said no. So then eventually it led to them eventually becoming a tag team, and they would be known as the Golden Truth, and they never win a match. So no one really benefited from this match. The Social Outcasts aren't even a stable. Heath Slater's on. You could technically say he benefited. He's on SmackDown. He went on to become like one half of the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Bo Dallas was on Raw, and he doesn't. He has the whole thing where he's just a believing Bo now. And Curtis Axel pretty much is never on television. He had like a 1 week feud with Bo Dallas that they forgot about, and it was terrible. No one benefited from this match except Heath Slater, you could say. So then we had the main event of this show. It was a WWE World Heavyweight Championship #1 Contenders Triple Threat match. Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman ringside versus Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose. I thought this was a really good triple threat match. I really enjoyed it. So the match, and they do the whole thing where Paul Heyman gave an introduction to Brock Lesnar that I thought was kind of cool. And Brock Lesnar pretty much in the beginning of this match wrecks everybody. He hits a German suplex on Roman Reigns, and he hits one on Dean Ambrose, kicks him out of the ring, beats the crap out of Roman Reigns, and he hits an F5 on him, but he tries to cover him, but Ambrose breaks up the pinfall. So then he destroys Dean Ambrose for a while. He hits a belly-to-belly suplex, and then he goes for the F5 himself, but Roman Reigns ends up hitting a spear on Lesnar. So then Reigns and Ambrose have to work together to pretty much take out Brock Lesnar, or else they're fucked. So then Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose bounce Lesnar's head off the announce table a bunch of times. They tear apart the announce table, and they hit the double power bomb on Lesnar, the old Shield double power bomb. And my friend actually noticed this, that every time he says this, Michael Cole's like, "Oh, old-fashioned Shield. That's the shades of the old Shield." And we noticed that he says this every time, like he'll repeat it constantly, which is kind of true. So then afterwards, Ambrose and Reigns start fighting with each other. Ambrose bounces Reigns' head off the announce table, throws him into the steel steps, and he pretty much hits all his moves on Reigns. Hits the clothesline corner into a bulldog. He hits the elbow drop and goes for the cover. Reigns kicks out, but then they see that Lesnar starts to get to his feet, so Ambrose and Reigns realize that they have to go take out Brock Lesnar, or else Lesnar's just gonna wreck him. So they go to do that same thing. They throw him into the barricade. Then they double powerbomb him again, like the old Shield style, through the announce table. And then Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose start fighting with each other. Roman Reigns hits a Superman punch off while Ambrose tries to go off the top rope. And then eventually he goes for the Samoan drop. Ambrose hits the Dirty Deeds, and then Reigns kicks out. Then Reigns goes for the Samoan drop. Lesnar comes in and hits a German suplex while Reigns has him on his shoulders. And then he gets to his feet. Reigns hits a spear on him. Lesnar kicks out. No, Lesnar doesn't kick out. He gets him immediately into the Kimura lock. But Reigns starts to power out of it. And then Ambrose hits him in the back with the steel chair repeatedly. And he grabs this chair. And he beats the crap out of Reigns and Lesnar with the chair. And then he hits Lesnar with the chair, which drives him out of the ring. And then Reigns spears Dean Ambrose for the win, which is why pretty much Dean Ambrose was in this match to eat the pinfall. So then, afterwards, Pyro goes off. Roman Reigns is pretty much going to go on to WrestleMania 32 to face Triple H. And afterwards, Triple H comes out and has a face-off with him. And the aftermath of this match came where Roman Reigns would go on and defeat Triple H for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar would go on to face each other in a street fight where Lesnar would win, and I'll get into what happened in those matches later on. And obviously at the time I wasn't like a huge fan of Roman Reigns going over, because I was a huge Roman Reigns fan at the time, but I just hated the way that he was being forced down our throats. I thought Dean Ambrose was the guy, but thinking back, it probably wasn't the best idea, because you had Roman Reigns who was feuding with Triple H, and the whole thing was about him getting the chase where he was going to finally win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, finally conquer the Authority, and that's exactly what they wanted to happen. Even though they didn't really build up Roman Reigns the best, they had to win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship twice before WrestleMania, which they really should have saved that moment for WrestleMania where he had finally won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And obviously because everyone booed Roman Reigns, so it didn't really work there. They tried to send Triple H at him, who was like the biggest heel you could probably have in the company at the time, and it didn't work. So kind of sucked. But overall thoughts on the show. At the time, like I had talked about, I had crapped on it for reasons I had said earlier in the video. Watching it back now, it's not a bad show. I think it's an okay show. I definitely think it has its bad moments, like, the Divas title match. The first Divas title match was really just a Raw tag match. The IC title match, watching it back is great, but at the time, I don't think I liked it as much because you had Dolph Ziggler and Kevin Owens who had like 1,000 matches before then, so the 6-man tag team match sucked. The Divas title match I thought was sloppy, not that great, but it definitely delivered toward the end. The kickoff I thought was really good too. But it had Styles Jericho, which was good. The Cutting Edge Peep Show with the New Day. That segment kind of was like a filler segment, but it wasn't like a bad segment. And the main event was really good. So overall, this show isn't a bad show. It does what it needs to do to build up to WrestleMania. You had the main event set. You had the Lesnar-Ambrose match set. You had that IC title ladder match set that I talked about. You also set up the women's triple threat match. So overall, this show is a solid show. It's not a great show, but it's a solid show. But that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure to subscribe to my other channels, CM Brothers and Owen the Talkinator. Make sure to subscribe to this channel as well. And I'll be back in a couple of minutes to review 205 Live, which not a lot of people like, apparently.